ושבתי בשלום beis avi. Yaakov Avinu said that I will return when he was asking Hashem's help to return from Lavan to to Yitzchak's house. It says, I will return in peace to my father's house. And Hashem will be for me an Elikim. And this stone that I placed for myself as a monument will be devoted and a house for the Eibishter. This is the same stone that he lied on, that he rested his head on by night. And everything that you will give me, I will give Meiser from. It's known the examination of this, the exact language that's brought down to Amorim of the Mittler Rebbe. Let's skip the brackets. B'Toras Chaim Parshasein. In the Sefer of Toras Chaim is the name of the Amorim of the Mittler Rebbe on our parsha. We also know what is spoken about prior to the Mittler Rebbe. B'Drushi Admor Azokin, the Amorim of the Alter Rebbe, Balaguladitas Kislev, B'Torah Parshasein. The one whose redemption was on the 19th of Kislev, that speaks about it in Torah Oir of our parsha. In the Mamorim of the one who took his place, the Mittler Rebbe's place, and the Tzemach Tzedek, Nechdei Admor Azokin, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, V'chosnoi, and the son-in-law of the Mittler Rebbe, Kibnoi, that the Chazal say that a son-in-law is like the son. So therefore, Shalad Morab Tzoi, so the Tzemach Tzedek is like the son of the Mittler of the Shalad Morab Tzoi, the Mittler Rebbe. That's brought down in the Tzemach Tzedek Sefer Ba'oira Torah Parsha Seinu Doira Torah Bar Parsha Ubedrusha Rabbi Seinu Sienu Malam Mekoyim Shalachriza, and the Mamorim of the Rabbeim, the one who took the places of the Rabbeim, the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, following them. The Mashrakos of ושבתי, what it says over here in this pasuk, I will return, is referring to Tshuva. The noise was that Shapirish Apasha the ושבתי u'meloshen shiva v'chazara, in addition to the idea, and the ושבתי, in the literal sense, what the pasuk is referring to is talking about returning. He's returning back to Eretz Yisrael, where his father Yitzchak lives. In addition to that, ושבתי u'meloshen shiva, that the word ושבתי is from the expression of tshuva. But tzarich l'havna shaykh is the tshuva lakan. We need to understand the connection between tshuva and the topic that Yaakov Avinu is discussing over here. Where does tshuva enter into the whole situation over here that he's dealing with? Gam tzarich l'havna mashakasav bishalom. Also, we need to understand why it says bishalom. What's the idea of bishalom? Shu nutrik and beis shalom. It's like made up of two words, two phrases. Two shalom. Two types of shalom. Mao in beis shalom, shnei shloimus. What's the idea of two shalom? Two types of shalom. As the Maimon will explain what that means. Gam zar l'hav mashu medayekan. V'shavti b'shalom beis avi daikem. Hainu beis yitzchak aviv. Why? Also, we need to understand what he's very exact to say over here. I will return in peace to my father's house, specifically, meaning the house of Yitzchak, his father. Similar to what it says afterwards, Vayeshev Yankiv be'eretz miguri aviv, that Yankov settled in the land of where his father lived, be'eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan. The Koyal Eretz Meguri Yitzchak, it's referring to the land of where his father lived. So what's the emphasis of going back to his father? He's going back to Eretz Canaan. Why the emphasis on going back to Yitzchak, his father's home? Also need to understand what's the idea that Havaya will be for me as an Elohim. What is that idea? Havaya will now become Elohim. What's the significance? Also we need to understand what the pasuk continues. This stone that Yaakov Avinu dedicated, will be a house of God. What does that mean? What's he doing with the stone over here? What's he turning it into? It's not a shul. What is it? Where it says everything that you will give me, I will give Meiser from. Also, when you understand the connection of these matters, what it says initially, that I will return to my father's house, what does that have to do with this stone becoming a house of Hashem, and I will give Meiser, and so on. Second paragraph on the first page. The idea behind this is, skip the brackets to the next line. Hineb inyan beis shalom, and the idea of the two shaloms, beis bechinas shalom, the two levels of shalom. Bevor bekam mekaymis, it's explained in many places in Chassidus. Al pi ma shamer Hazal b'Gemara Sanhedrin, according to what the Chazal say in the Gemara Sanhedrin, yesh beis bechinas shalom. There are two types of peace. Shalom b'malya shamaylam, the peace in the court of above, the heavenly court. V'shalom b'mamayis shamata, and the peace in the court down here below. V'hainu beis in yoni shalom. These are two matters of peace. Hashalom b'olam masal yoinim, the peace in the supernal worlds. V'ashalom b'olam hazat tachtin, and the peace in this low world, shein tachtin lamata memenu, that there's nothing lower than it. And these two types of peace, which is in a big picture type of way, in a macro view, also reflects, like the Rebbe always wants to find, within the micro, within the person himself. From this also descends by means of a chain descent, also in the avoid of every single yid. Like it says, also the world he placed in the heart of the yidden, meaning that everything that goes on in the big, in the macro, must be found in the small. Peace in the upper worlds, peace in the lower worlds must be found within me as well. There's the peace in the high matters of the person. That means his soul. That the peace in the lower matters of a person, which is the body. In general, the soul versus the body, this is referring to Torah versus mitzvahs. Torah is the idea of what's being drawn down from above. Hashem spoke the Torah to us. It's our level of being connected above without dealing with the physical world. As opposed to mitzvahs, they are primarily about refining the below. And in a more general way, the two levels of peace. The peace in the court of above and the peace in the court of below. The peace going from above to below, and the peace coming from below to above. These are the two ideas of shalom, of peace, shebepasuk, that says in the pasuk, shalom, shalom, larachik v'lakariv. It says in Yeshayahu, it says peace, peace, that and to the far and to the near. So the Chazal say, what do you mean? Peace to the far. There's no peace to the far. He's far away. You can't connect with him. But rather, it's talking about, Chazal say, l'rochek shenase karev. When the first one says peace, peace, one peace to the one that's far and one peace to the one that's near, he doesn't mean someone that remained far, but rather the one that is far and became now near. So there is peace to the one that was far and became near, and then there is peace to the one that was always near. The Hainu Hashalom Lekarev, what does it mean? Greeting and peace to the one that's close and near. Shu Inen Avodah Tzadikim Gemurim. The one that's near, that's the Avodah of complete Tzadikim. Vashalom Lerachik Shenase Karev, and the peace for the one that's far, that became near. Shu Inen Avodah Baal Tshuva, that's the Avodah of Baal Tshuva. So getting back to what we were speaking about earlier, we said ושבתי בשלום. Before the word beis shalom, it says ושבתי, and we said ושבתי is referring to return, not just physical return to a location, but a spiritual return of tshuva. So he says, ושבתי בשלום גומר, ושבתי כוי על avodas tshuva kanal. That's where it says, I will return in peace. That ושבתי, I will return, is referring to the avoid of tshuva, like we said before. ועל דרך זה מה שכתוב בשלום. בשלום, כולל גם avodas tshuva, in a similar vein, where it says twice, where it says בשלום, meaning two types of shalom, it includes also the avoid of tshuva. Why? Because in this pasuk, it is referring to the revelation of the future when Mashiach comes, and we know that Mashiach's revelation has to do primarily with the service of tshuva. Why? So the Rebbe says a few reasons why Mashiach's times has to do with tshuva. The noise in addition to what the Chazal say, that all the projected ends of when Mashiach was supposed to come already was done, we already experienced them, and the matter is only dependent upon Tshuva for Mashiach to come, so that we see that the Chazal link that Mashiach's coming is dependent upon Tshuva. In addition to that, the idea of Mashiach is connected with Tshuva. That's going to be part of his job. Like the Zohar says, Mashiach also Mashiach is going to come to bring and return tzaddikim in Tshuva, to make tzaddikim also experience Tshuva. Chassidus would be Mashiach Tzidkenu Yir. The novelty of the coming of Mashiach will be not only will it then be the advantage of and the quality of the service of tzaddikim, tmidim kisidram, which is using a phrase. There's a phrase that Chazal say, tmidim kisidram mulsafim kilchasam. There is the carbon tamid that was brought in the Beis Hamikdash that was constant and always, and then there was the carbon musaf that was brought on certain special days, Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Yom Tov, and so on. So Tmidim Kisidram, that corresponds to Shleimus Avodas HaTzadikim. That's the perfection of the service of Tzadikim. They are constant, they are consistent, they always do the right thing. Elegam Miles Avodas Baal Tshuva, but also what Mashiach is going to come is going to be also the advantage and quality of the service of Baal Tshuva. I feel tzaddikim in the place the Baal Tshuva stand, even complete tzaddikim are not able to stand over there. That is symbolized by the idea of musafim. It's an musaf in the word increase, more than regular, because the level of Baal Tshuva is higher than tzaddikim. Shleimus avodas tshuva, the perfection of the avodah of tshuva, which is what Mashiach is going to be about. So therefore, ושבתי, when it talks about the avoid of tshuva, it says בשלום, because we'll have the ultimate level of return. The ultimate level of return will be when Mashiach comes. Therefore, we'll have both the avoid of tzaddikim and the avoid of Baal Tshuva. The second paragraph on the page. Now will be understood also why it says specifically to my father's house. Like we asked initially in the Maimer, why is there such an emphasis on Yaakov returning to his father's house? I'm going to return home. I'm going to return to Canaan. Why the emphasis on his father's house? Since this pasuk is referring to the divine revelations that are going to take place in the future, in Mashiach's times, how do you do it? It's known the revelations of Mashiach's times are specifically associated with the level of Yitzchak. Like it's explained in many places, that even though now we call all the Avos, we call them Avram Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, but Mashiach comes, there will be specifically, we'll call Yitzchak Avinu. He will have a very special reason, a very special connection with that title. So therefore, when Yaakov is talking about the tshuva of Mashiach's times, he refers specifically returning to his father's house, because Mashiach's times is about the level of Yitzchak. The Zel Teuchen HaHefresh Ben Avodas Yitzchak L'Avodas Avram. The Avodah of Tshuva and the Avodah of Mulmata L'Mayla is more Yitzchak's thing. The difference in the Avodah of Yitzchak and the Avodah of Avram is She'ikir Inyan Shel Avram Hoye Be'inyan Hamshach L'Mayla L'Mata. The main idea of the Avodah of Avram was concerning drawing down from above to below. Like it says, I have loved him because he has commanded his children and his household after him, and they will observe the way of Hashem to do tzedakah and mishpat. This is all coming from above to below. It's the Hamshacha coming from above to below. The avoid of tzaddikim, tmidim kesidram, like we said, everything going consistently, constantly. Opposed to the avoid of Yitzchak was digging wells. What's the theme and what's the idea behind digging wells? It's the removing of the earth and the concealments and coverings and blockages and obstacles. That's the avodah going from below to above. Avodah of Baal Tshuva, the avodah of Baal Tshuva, avodah of Masafim, the avodah of the extra and excess, in addition to the Tmidim Kesidram. Since when Mashiach comes, the main novelty and uniqueness will be in the service going from below to above. To make tzaddikim do tshuva. That's why they'll tell Yitzchak specifically, you are father, because that's the idea of digging the wells, removing anything that's blocking. That's why when it's talking about Mashiach's times and the tshuva, etc., it says specifically, I will return in peace to my father's house, daika specifically. The Hainu Yitzchak, the level of Yitzchak. Third paragraph on the second page. This will also be understood, but it says in the pasuk that Havaya will be for me Elikim. So to be able to understand this, we need to understand the meanings of these two names, Havaya and Elikim. In Eksiv, it says in the pasuk, Kishem Mishumogin Havaya Elikim, that Havaya and Elikim, the two names of Hashem, are like the sun and its shield. What does it mean, the sun and its shield? So just like the physical sun is too bright and it needs to have a shield to protect us from it, some people say that's the ozone layer that was very popular in the news 20, 30 years ago. The same thing in the spiritual realms, there's the godly revelation that's a shemesh and a lekim. Since it's not in the capability of created beings to accept and receive the revelation of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. If it will shine to them, then the light of the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei as is, without any type of covering, shield, protection, so out of the great, awesome experience of godliness, they could expire in their love and delight and enjoyment of Hashem, and completely everything will become nullified in godliness. But the intention is that Hashem wants to have a home down here below. He doesn't want us to expire, even in a great love and experience of godliness. So how does He shield us from the great, powerful revelation of Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei? So for that, there is Shem Elokim, which is a Mogin. Therefore, there's the name Elokim, that is a shield and a case. Hamaylim umaster al Shem Havaya, that conceals and covers on the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, sheyuchel an nevraim lakabel, that the created beings should be able to receive. That is now. Amnam lost love it, but in the future, yekabel an nevraim es hagilu de Shem Havaya k'may shehu, b'li shum mogin v'nartik. Then all the created beings will receive the revelation of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei as is, without any shield and without any case. In addition to the fact that we'll already have completed our mission, we already refined all the sparks. Shalachein lo yitztarchu la'nartik l'shem Elokim. Therefore, we won't need the case and covering of the name Elokim. Ki lifnei Gemara berurim sheyashna hahelim, before the conclusion of the refining of the sparks, there is the concealment. And it's tzadikli as hahelim v'hester d'shem Elokim maloshem din. There has to be the concealment and covering of the name Elokim from the expression judgment. Skip the parentheses, second line. B'chdei lekabel hagilu d'shem Havai, to be able to receive the revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Mashenki loss of love, as opposed to future times. Lachar Gemara berurim, after all the sparks will be elevated and it will finish refining everything. It has to be elevated. Kasher es ruach atuma avrim aretz, when I will remove the spirit of impurity from the land. There's no need anymore for judgment and concealment. We can have godliness fully revealed. In addition to that, that's one idea of Havaya being Elokim, that Elokim won't have to cover over Havaya. Havaya will be completely revealed. In addition to that, the Kashem Shavodas Adam Tia Oz B'tach Sashlems. Avodas HaTshuva now, just like the service of a person to Hashem, when Mashiach comes, will be in the utmost perfect way. The Avodah of Tshuva, like we said before, Al Derech Zeh Yegam Oz Tachlus HaShleimes Bagilun Dolomaylo. So too it will be the ultimate perfection in the revelations of above. Then, when Mashiach comes, we will be vessels to be able to receive a greater and higher revelation than what we receive now. So even though now, if there wouldn't be Shem Elokim, and we get our revelation directly from Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, from Shem Havaya, it would be too much for us. We would expire from it. But when Mashiach comes, we will be so much elevated, and therefore we will be able to receive this revelation and still remain without expiring. Then, when Mashiach comes, Havaya will be from Elokim. Instead of Elokim being the separation between me and Havaya, Havaya will be on the level of Elokim. Then the revelation will be that those that are receiving will receive from Havaya itself. Another meaning he's going to explain of Havaya is Elokim in a deeper way. Elokim means a constricted revelation, and Havaya means that there's more revelation. But all of this is relative. So what the pasuk is saying is, in comparison to the greater revelations that we'll have when Mashiach comes, Havaya will be considered like Elokim. It will be considered constricted, because we will really receive from so much more than the level of Havaya that we're familiar with. In general, it speaks about, we're going to mention here, Havaya de Leila, Havaya de Lasata, a higher level of Yud Kei Vav Kei, a lower level of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And when the higher level of Yud Kei Vav Kei becomes revealed, so then the lower level of Yud Kei Vav Kei doesn't seem like Yud Kei Vav Kei anymore. It seems that that's like Shem Elokim. That's what another meaning of Ahoya Havaya Lil Elokim, that Havaya will now be as low as Shem Elokim. By the way, this is also the idea of saying 7 times Havaya Hu Elokim at the end of Yom Kippur, because we're going up higher and higher, and we're going up one level where Havaya is now as little as Elokim, and then that level that we attained is now going down further. That's still Shem Elokim, and that level becomes Shem Elokim, and so on and so forth. Let's see further inside. In addition to this, middle of the first paragraph on the 3rd page. The revelation of Mashiach's times will be from the higher level of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And not only will it be from the higher level of Yud Kei Vav Kei, until the revelation when Mashiach comes will be from the level of godliness that's totally beyond the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's why then it will be Havaya, will be from Elokim. That Havaya now will be considered like Elokim will then be considered like Shem Elokim. Another meaning in Havaya that the Havaya will be from me Elokim that Yaakov Avinu said. In addition to this, the Mekim Shebishvil Kabbal's Gilui Naila Kazeh, since to be able to receive this great revelation, Mishem Havaya Del Eila Gam L'Mayla Kazeh, from the higher level of Shem Havaya or even higher than that, we will need a garment, a case for the receivers. That will be the Elokim, that will be the covering, that will be the layer that will protect us from the higher level of Shem Havaya. That was where originally, before we finished refining the sparks, came the revelation from initially, and that we had to protect with Shem Elokim. Now that higher that level of Havaya Del Sata is going to become the Elokim and the protector for the higher Havaya. Since the revelation is much higher, Shem Havaya Del Eila Gam L'Mayla Mazeh, the higher level of Yud Vav even higher than this. Therefore, the garment and the shield and the case needs to be even higher. Loi Shem Elokim, instead of Shem Elokim is going to be the covering. El Shem Havaya Del Sata, the lower Shem Havaya will be the protection, the shield, the case for the higher level of Shem Havaya. That's what it means. Havaya will be for me Elokim. That the lower Shem Yud Vav will be like an Elokim. It'll be a shield and a case for the higher level of Shem Havaya. Second paragraph on the third page. Evan Azois, and this rock, Asher Samti, that I placed, Matsevo, I made it as a monument. Yiv Beis Elokim will be the house of Elokim. Hine Avonim, we know Chassidus brings down from the Sefer Yetzirah that stones, Hema Oisius the Dvaravaya Hamahava Kol Seder Ishtalshus. These are the letters of the speech of Hashem that brings into being the entire chain order descent of all the worlds. Like it's brought down in the Sefer Yetzirah, Shtei Avonis, Boilis, Shtei Batim. When you have two stones, you can build two houses. What the Sefer Yetzirah is referring to is, if you have two letters of the Aleph base, you could build two words from it. Let's say you have the letters Aleph and base. You have two combinations. You could have Av and you could have Ba. So therefore, you see that the letters are called in Kabbalah, they're called stones. And this is the idea that Eibusha created the worlds with his speech, that the words of Hashem, the heavens were made. The heavens include the entire chain order descent of all the spiritual worlds, not just the spiritual sky. Were created through the letters of the speech of Hashem. How come? What's the need for it? So it's similar to what we said before about Elokim. The letters break down and minimize the hashpah that comes from Hashem to create the worlds. If the flow and the ray of godliness would have come down without letters, so this is called bringing down too much good that they cannot receive. The Rebbe is quoting, using a phrase that the Gemara in Masechtas Tainus brings down about that when Chonei HaMagal had davened for rain, one of the ways how the rain came down was came down in a deluge. Even though rain is a bracha, it's good, but if it comes too much, it'll flood everything. So the same thing, if there wouldn't be letters, so then the hashpah would come down too much, and it would not, even though it's a revelation of godliness, which is always good, we wouldn't be able to handle it. As opposed to when the Amshocha from above comes through letters, then all the types of flow and revelations and rays and godliness comes down in the chain order of descent in a way of drop by drop that are able to receive, literally like Chonei HaMagal. Again, he uses the same quote from Chonei HaMagal over there in the Gemara, that he asked that the rain should come down in drops, so we should be able to receive it. Just like in the rain, the drop by drop includes in it much good, because then the waters fill up the cisterns and the fields are able to grow and so on. But when godliness comes down with the individual letters without the entire storm and revelation of godliness, therefore the receivers can receive it. So now going back to what Yaakov Avinu said, that this stone will be a Beis Elokim. This is what it means, that this stone, this rock, that I placed a monument, that the level of the stone, that's the letters. That it comes through them a revelation of godliness. This is what it says, this stone. What's the idea of this stone? The Rebbe is paraphrasing what Chazal say about Zeh Kelim Anveu. He says, he's pointing with his finger and it says Zois. What does that mean? It's revealed. Inyan Agili. The Inyan Nifal idea avoida the Even Azois. This idea that there's a revelation that comes through the minimization of the letters happens asher samti matzeva, through placing a monument. Shu inyan a bittul. The idea of placing a monument is a bittul, is the idea of nullifying oneself. Just like a matzeva, a monument in the simple sense that indicates on bittul, because a monument has no value in and of itself. It's not something valuable of itself. A monument is a rock, it's a piece of cement. The only value that a monument has, it's a sign, it's an indicator for something else. So therefore, the monument is a state of bittul. And because when one has the level of bittul, that becomes a revelation of godliness. You say even more so, like it says in the psukim prior to this. That Yaakov took the stone that he placed by his head when he went to sleep that night, and he made it into a monument, and he poured oil on his head. Like it's explained in the Mamorim, the idea of pouring oil on his head is the drawing down of Chachma, etc. The level of the most highest levels, oil floats on top of water. That's the level of Chachma, which is the highest sphere. This idea Yaakov drew down in the entire chain order of descent. Because this rock that Yaakov placed up by his head was really a conglomeration of many rocks. As we know, the Rashi explains that really he had 12 rocks around his head, and then they joined into one. So by placing this rock and turning it into a monument and pouring the oil on it, so really he was pouring it on all the different levels. This is what it means, that this rock that I placed as a monument will be a home for Hashem. The ultimate perfection in this is that when Mashiach comes, it will be the entire chain order of descent will be a house of Elokim. A house and a vessel to receive and accept the revelation of Elokim. This is the level of Elokim of the future. Like we said before, that Shem Havaya now will be then Elokim. So it's going to be the bias of this high, very high level. Like it says prior to that Havaya will be for me Elokim. Second paragraph on the last page. What's the end of the pasuk? It says, everything you will give me, I will surely give Meiser from. This idea I will give a tenth from. Shows on the perfect revelation of the future times. Like it's explained in many places in Chassidus, that the number 10 is a complete complete grouping of numbers. For this reason, that's why the world was created with 10 utterances, not 9, not 11, not 35. And similar to this, in all matters of creation, 10 shows on perfection. So too, it's in the flow of godliness of above. That the perfection is when it manifests itself in the number 10. And this perfection will become revealed specifically when Mashiach comes. Like it's brought down the Gemara ben Agel, like the Beis Hamikdash, concerning the harp of the Beis Hamikdash. That in the harp in the Beis Hamikdash of old, the harp had 7 strands. Only when Mashiach comes will it have 8. But that's not where it's going to stop. Afterwards, it's going to be 10 strands, like it says in Tehillim, that he will be playing upon 10 strands, because that's going to be the ultimate of Mashiach's times. Similar to this, it's explained in the Medrash concerning many matters. When Mashiach comes, it will be specifically in the number 10. That will be the 10th song. Throughout Jewish history, there was 10 times that Yidden sang a Shira to Hashem. The 10th time will be when Mashiach comes. This is the idea of Asar Asrenulach. It doesn't mean a 10th, but it means the fullness of the number 10 that's going to be when Mashiach comes. In addition to this, Asar Asrenu, 10 I will 10. Beis Pomim, twice. This reminds us of something else that said twice. ושבתי בשלום, בשלום. Like at the beginning of the pasuk that says, I will return in peace, and we said the word Bishalom is supposed to be read Beis Shalom, Tu Shalom, Sheshlem Zutiya, Beis Akavim Dam Shachim Al Mailam, Matu Alom Al Matu Al Mailam. That this perfection will be in the 2 lines of drawing down from above to below and elevation from below to above. That this avodah will be also in the future, that will have the going from above to below and below to above. That's why you have twice 10, to show that in both types of avodas there will be perfection, the number 10. When the future, it will be the elevations in Kedusha itself. We won't have to ascend from Klippa to Kedusha, but all of our aliyahs will be in Kedusha itself. That's where he continues. I will 10 to you, l'cha. Why do you say l'cha to you? When it says to you, the Amarim say it means to you, to your very essence, to Hashem's essence. This is similar to where it says, we will rejoice and be happy in you. That the revelation of the future times will be from you in your very essence. We can add additional to this. The Mevur Sham that's explained in other places, the Bach, when it says Nagil of Rizcha Bach, Oisius Chaf Beis. Bach is the same letters like the word, like the numerical equivalent of 22. The Kaya Chaf Beis Oisa Torah, it's referring to the 22 letters of the Torah. The revelation of Hashem's essence comes down in the letters. So too it's in our pasuk. This idea of 10 and 10 again comes down into this stone, now the letters of the 10 utterances. Until from this comes down to all the stones, meaning to all the levels in the entire Seder Ishtalshus. The last paragraph, the actions of the forefathers are a signpost and an indicator for the children. Especially the actions of Yaakov, like the Alter Rebbe says in the Geras HaKodesh, in Tanya, that Yaakov Avinu includes in him all the neshamas of Klal Yisrael. Moving from this understood, the Kishem Shahoy is Ba'avoidus Yaakov, just like this took place in the service of Yaakov. Al derech zeh nimshach ba'avoidus kol echad v'echad Yisrael, so too it comes down the avoid of every single Yid. Shiur ושבתי בשלום הגויmer, it'll be I will return in peace, etc. K'mivur begeras hakodesh, like it's explained also in Tanya in the Geras hakodesh. Sheyesh inyan hapadir b'shalom ba'avoidus kol echad v'echad Yisrael. There is the redemption and peace and the avoid of every single Yid. Shezeh kol hapirushim b'nizeh pod v'shalom hamavur b'shar tshuva l'bal hagula. This includes all the different explanations of pod v'shalom that's explained in the Sefer called Sha'ar Tshuva of the one whose redemption was, in other words, the Mittler Rebbe, whose redemption was on the 10th Kislev, Ad l'tachsa shleimus b'zeh, until we come to the ultimate redemption and peace. Inyan HaShalom Shiyah B'yas Mashiach Tzidkeinu, the idea of peace that will be in the coming of Mashiach, Shalom b'mali shal ma'ila v'shalom b'mali shal mata, peace in the heavenly court and peace in the court down here below. Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh, v'Eretz HaKodesh, in the holy city of Yerushalayim, in the holy land. It is the central point of the entire chain order of descent of all the worlds. Afterwards, Hashem will broaden your boundaries away from the Rechavis Hanor and the way of the breadth of the river that we spoke about on Sunday, yesterday. That's what the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe was. The breadth of the river from the droplets of the wellspring of Alter Rebbe. Speedily in our days, mamish.